Hi everyone, my name is Alison, and I'm the founder of HoneyBadgerRadio. And today I want to talk about a news item that was sent to me by one Iron John. It's an article from PJ Media entitled, "The National Coalition for Men has filed a Title IX complaint against Christine Fair." I want to thank PJ Media for covering NCFM's action. You are solid people. This article is by Tony Arkenskian. The nation's oldest men's rights group, actually it says men's groups, but it is a men's rights group, filed a Title IX complaint Thursday against Georgetown University, calling for the termination of the professor who tweeted that white GOP senators deserve miserable deaths. According to the October 4 complaint filed with the D.C. branch of the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, Georgetown professor Christine Fair has openly called for violence and terrorism against men as a class and several specific men. Christine Fair became national news last week after she fired off a series of tweets in the wake of the Brett Kavanaugh saga. Look at all the entitled white men justifying a serial rapist's arrogated entitlement. All of them deserve miserable deaths while feminists laugh as they take their last gasps. Bonus, we castrate their corpses and feed them to swine. Professor Fair is still scheduled to teach a class next semester, a research seminar on national security. But the group that filed the complaint, the National Coalition for Men, doesn't think she should teach anymore. She is an active and ongoing security threat to her male students. She cannot be expected to teach her male students in a fair manner, and her presence creates a hostile environment against young male students on campus. NCFM explains. In an email interview with PJ Media, Christine Fair said the following. This is basically weapons-grade misogyny. Holding you to account, huh? Anyone who confuses a critique of male privilege with animus towards men is being daft or willfully mendacious. What was it that she said again? All of them deserve miserable deaths while feminists laugh. Bonus, we castrate their corpses and feed them to swine. Okay, I didn't realize that was a critique of male privilege, which hasn't been proven, by the way. NCFM lawyer Mark Angelucci is surprised Fair hasn't already been fired. Regarding the comment by Fair, if a male professor had said those horrific things about female senators, he'd be fired immediately, not to mention mobbed and vilified in the media, he told PJ Media Thursday. This sexist double standard needs to be confronted and condemned. Yes, good point. Confronted and condemned. Way to go, Angelucci. Standing up for your rights and making sure that women reap the consequences of their actions. That is equality. Of course, FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, comes in on this and says that Fair's tweets are covered or protected under the First Amendment. Of course, it strains credulity that a male professor could start threatening female senators and start talking about killing women and still have a job. I think there's a little bit of a double standard there. Anyway, that isn't everything that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to go into more of my thoughts on Kavanaugh and something that Crowder recently said on a stream. First of all, the Democrats didn't successfully block Kavanaugh's appointment, but that's not a win for the Republicans, it's just not losing. Not losing is not a win. A win is when you gain strategic or tactical ground through engagement with the enemy. The Republicans have done neither in this. They have just not lost. And I'm going to explain why, so bear with me. Let me use an analogy. The Democrats have deployed a hidden sniper, and that sniper managed to hit Kavanaugh. Now, after a lot of touch and go, Kavanaugh didn't go down, he didn't die. And the Republicans are rejoicing over the fact that the sniper didn't kill their man. Except the sniper's still there. Eventually, that sniper will be successful. It's only a matter of time. Now, what the National Coalition for Men has done is watch this situation and use the information they've gathered from it to try and take out the motherfucking sniper. That's taking the situation and acting instead of reacting, or simply declaring not losing to be a win. The sniper in this instance is the left's demonization of male sexuality in men, a threat narrative I like to call women worsting. Adherents to the tenets of women worsting believe that along every possible vector, women have it worse than men. Meteorite hits Earth, women most affected. and that somehow men are to blame for either causing the threat to women or not stopping it. Women worsting men in turn define themselves as women's saviors and deify female victimhood as basically a source of narcissistic supply. Women worsting has its own orthodoxy, dogma, and heresy, and the greatest heresy of all is to question any claim of female victimhood. Believe her. Me too. Believe women. Women worsting is not exclusive to the left. It exists on both sides, but women worsting as a theocratic regime metastasize within the left because they are less resistant to it, for reasons that I won't go into here. The institutions pushing this orthodoxy are mainly academia and the media. Academia gives it authoritative legitimacy, the media gives it volume, and the Democratic Party is its political arm. Or rather, these institutions have refined and perfected women worsting as a political tool, as seen in the 2008 presidential election and its claims of a GOP war on women. Women worsters have woven a vast, demonizing threat narrative against half the population of their nation, their own government, and society. They are at war with almost everything because we live in a rape culture, at war with women. With the Kavanaugh debacle, the women worsters have successfully conjured up the specter of the devil for their faithful, in the form of the conservative half of America, the GOP, and even the entire government itself. The Democrats have a good gig going. If they win, and Kavanaugh didn't get appointed, they've managed a political coup, if they sweep the midterms. But if they lose, they get a cultural coup, proving to their faithful that their constructed devil, Republican rape culture, is totes real. On the Republican side, we see a house fractured. The National Council of Churches called for Kavanaugh's nomination to be withdrawn. The conservative base does not consistently see being publicly sexually humiliated, without any corroborative evidence, as an injustice against Kavanaugh. Rightly or wrongly, the left, and many on the right, are galvanizing around Ford's tears, because a white woman's tears are a powerful thing. And there's nothing on the right to compete with it. There simply isn't the level of righteous fire on the conservative side as there is on the women worsting side, partially because they aren't really two distinct sides at all, since conservatives also define men in terms of saving women. They easily get drawn in and manipulated by women worsting threat narratives.
And to the men, we've talked about this a lot, the incels, right? The involuntary celibates, the professionally outraged over alimony and child support payment crowd. Sorry, I'm not on board with you. I understand equality. I understand people being upset with feminists and how far they've reached, but this men's rights crowd that sometimes just goes too far the other way.
There are maybe 4 or 5 men's rights activists or organizations with any sort of resources, either financial or in terms of reach. Every one of us, the NCFM, A Voice for Men, HoneyBadgerRadio, and 5 years ago, before he passed on, Earl Silverman, every single one of us, with the least amount of resources, is fighting a tooth and nail, balls to the wall, David and Goliath fight against the forces of women worsting, be they a person, government body, or institution. Men's rights activists with almost no resources are taking the fight right to the enemy. Let's imagine scaling that up. Let's imagine that men's rights activists had the same resources as conservatives and the GOP. Imagine a party in which every single man is willing to bring the fight to the enemy. What's the GOP doing right now? Are they investigating the allegations that Ford's friend McLean interfered with one of the witnesses in Ford's favor? Are they investigating anything? What's Kavanaugh doing right now?
Women still face many barriers in the American workplace, and all of us have a responsibility to address that problem. I'm proud that all 4 of my newly hired law clerks at the Supreme Court are women, a first in the history of the Supreme Court.
Oh, he's appointing an all-female team of law clerks in order to fight the glass ceiling. Okay then. While certainly appeasing and confirming the moral imperium of a bunch of authoritarians currently goose-stepping their way into power by demonizing large swaths of the population, and, might I add, they're demonizing you too, conservatives, that's a winning tactic, yes sir. And for those of you who say he promised to do this before Me Too invaded Poland, it doesn't matter if you do it before or after Me Too invades Poland, you're still appeasing Me Too.
You need to learn to be the person that your woman's going to want when wolves are at the door.
If you haven't been keeping track, It's women worsting, in conjunction with its women and minorities faction, that are currently the wolves at the door, destroying our rights and freedoms and replacing them with lynch mobs. They will do their level best to destroy everything that doesn't believe as they do, including women, and they may well succeed. I want the type of man who takes the fight to the enemy, who understands that respecting women as a group means disrespecting women as individuals, who's willing to dish the consequences a woman's actions deserve, and who doesn't go on bended knee to appease women worsting. He's kicked that women worsting habit and replaced it with a hunger for equal justice before the law. I want the type of man who gets pissed when he sees injustice against himself and other men, because those men are the ones who are going to protect themselves and their rights. And if a man can't protect his own rights, he can't protect a woman's rights. Once they get rid of men's rights, they're coming after mine. I'm not so stupid I don't see the writing on the wall. What type of man do I want beside me as the women-worsting wolves howl at my door? A men's rights activist, thank you very much. Now I have a question for you. A question I don't think men ask themselves near enough. What kind of woman do you want by your side? Of course, to be fair, it's not completely hopeless on the conservative side.
Why aren't you brave enough to talk to us?
When you grow up, I'll be like,
When I grow up, we grow up. How dare you talk to women that way? How dare you?
We here at Honey Badger Radio are trying to fight back against women worsting with everything we've got. So if you're interested in helping people take the fight to the enemy, please consider becoming a patron. Per episode options are at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. One-time and monthly options are at www.feedthebadger.com. Guaranteed 95% of your dollar goes to fighting women worsting, rather than ever more elaborate efforts to appease that which cannot be appeased. The other 5% goes to pet food.
Stay. Look at me. Hey, look at me.
He's drooling.
Okay, whatever.